Yo, so the opinions and views expressed in this podcast are that of our own and the future Bachelor podcast only, and not affiliated with any outside party or entity or anything like that. This fun podcast, though, may include some adult language.
Future Bachelor Podcast.
Why don't we get into something we like to do here? You know what we do. It's that time to talk about Bachelor stuff on our show! Yes, and before we get into this week's episode, YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, smash that thumbs up button, hit that notification bell so you can get notified every time we drop new Bachelor content just like this. And if you just did, huge like shout out to you. Ooh,
just like this.
Air horns for you. Veronica, wow, what a week. We started off with 2 days of Bachelor stuff, ended with, the finale that just wouldn't end. It had twists and turns.
Do you think we could have just cut this down to a single night?
Probably, but I agree. It was just so, there were so many twists and turns at the last second that it would have been, I think, too forced to have.
They were like, we're trying to get that ad money, baby.
Right. And all of this was in anticipation of seeing, who possibly would be, the next Bachelorette. So we'll get to that later on in the show. Obviously, if you watch the show, it's not that big of a surprise. We'll just talk about it later on in the talks. But, Veronica, where should we start with this week?
Let's start night one. We're going into what keeps being promoted as the rose ceremony from hell.
Yes.
Which Fatality. Jesse Palmer, honestly, him hosting these 2 nights, with the live portions and whatever, he almost is smiling with glee as he's talking about these chaotic.
I noticed that.
And as he then, when we get into it, asks Clayton and the women and whatever these questions, he's just twisting knives. And he's almost, I feel like it feels very, because he has done some sports in stuff in the past. It does feel very sporty, which I think is interesting. But we get into that, Gabby walks up. Rachel walks up. They're looking great. They're walking up to Jesse. Jesse full well knows that Susie's not going to be there and that everything's been blowing up. And he's all you excited? You nervous? To the girls, and they're like, nah, whatever. They climb up the stairs of this beautiful, I don't even know, I'm guessing some museum, concert hall, something in Iceland. And they realize, they're where the hell is Sue? So Susie is not here. And they're getting nervous. Clayton comes out walking these 2 days. I feel he's walked like a serial killer. You could tell he's almost in his head being all left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. This man is I don't know if I can go on. But he gets out there and he gives the girls a lowdown. He's you know what? Susie's not here because she asked some questions. Here's what she asked. And he's and I had to tell her that I've been intimate with both of you and I'm in love with all of you. And you could tell, Gabby is just starting to cry while she's standing there. And Rachel, you could see her internals, her internal mechanisms just breaking down. Her eyes just go blank. She's just it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really interesting to see also that how each of the women were reacting to the news, and it does seem like Rachel kind of had it just seems like it was a little unfair for her because after the news they're both crying and all this stuff.
They both go walk off.
Yeah,
Rachel walks down and is crying, and the acoustics incredible.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you think the acoustics were really that bad, or they were really just putting
kept her fucking mic on and she was echoing? I don't know, dude. Awful all around. Brutal. It was so painful to just sit and have Clayton being it's so hard listening to them cry.
And you hear someone in the background
I'm yeah, this is, I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. I don't think he's made the best decisions this season, but I have a little bit of empathy for this man to a small degree. And I wouldn't wish anybody to be all now you have to listen. to these women crying. Like, that's insane.
So yeah, they're crying, but somehow he convinces them both to stay for a rose ceremony.
He goes down, like, he goes to Gabby, and he's all like talking to her, and she's like, I don't, like, give me the, like, she was like, so explain what was said between you and Susie. And so he sort of explains it, and then you could tell she's like, all right, I get the gist. I don't need to hear more. She's like, I just needed to know base level where we're at. And then, like, she's, like, obviously angry. She's like, what do you mean? Blah, blah, blah. And, like, she's like, how can you love? And he's like, I love you for different reasons. And she's like, well, how are you going to pick then? And he's like, I'm going to pick whoever I love the most. And she was like, the fuck? She's like, what do you mean the most?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, the one I love the most, duh. And she's just like, I don't want to be loved the most. I would just want to be loved in general.
Like, accepted for me.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, what do you, she's like, what? And then, you know, so she's still like, kind of like, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. Like, she kind of goes off. He goes back and finds Rachel. Of course, they're so handsy with each other. He's like holding her, whatever. They're like, kind of like, he calms her down enough to be all like, you know, I really do still, like, everything I said to you, I mean, like, I really, like, blah, blah, blah. I want to see this through. And she's like, okay. And, like, she walks back, and then, like, you know,
I think essentially what happens is, like, they get both there, and he offers the rose, to Rachel first. She accepts, and then he offers the rose to Gabby, and she goes no.
She says, adios, motherfucker.
Yeah, but he
and
does
then he has to chase her down.
Yeah.
And you could tell Rachel is all like, shit, you could say no? Like, you could tell, like, she's like, wait, I don't want to be chosen if I'm going to be literally the default answer. Like, that's not even being chosen now. Like, she's like, I'm just who's left. Like, that's insane. Like, I'm not going to be just who's left, especially if he still has feelings for Susie. Like, he somehow convinces Gabby to come on back.
It's so crazy though, like seeing that, like, Rachel was like, I felt like at the top, and then it was like she fell to third place and all this stuff. Like, I don't know, it just seems kind of crazy. But yeah, so they both come back, and, you know, they accept their roses for that night and go through a very emotional night before meeting his parents. Right.
And I have to appreciate that Gabby, like, something that I've noticed about Gabby's behavior in these last couple of episodes is that she has been, like, very, and we'll even get into it, like, how she even approached him in the final, like, in, you know, their talk in the live episode. But, like, she was super empathetic. She, like, walks up, apologizes to Rachel, like, they check in with each other, which I'm like, honestly, that was kind of like a sweet, like, women supporting, like, they're both going through it for their own reasons, but the fact that they could level with each other and be like, yo, like, you good? Like, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. I know, like, that's, like, such a shitty position that I put you in, that I ran away. Because obviously, this man is doing these things, but, like, I wouldn't want you to feel some kind of way because I left, whatever. I thought that was great. But then, but yeah, so now they're rolling into meeting his fam, which I still don't know which brother. Like, after seeing the two brothers, I'm like, which one hit up Teddy? Would love to know.
I don't know, but Teddy is fine. So is Serene. But with that being said, they meet the parents, and the parents are, you know, kind of laying into Clayton, and Clayton is actually like, it's kind of crazy because he's still, like, kind of, like, lying to himself, trying to put out this stuff to his parents, and his parents are just like, nah, dude, like, you screwed the pooch, like, you know.
Yeah, his dad is honestly an icon. He is, you know, very much so giving it to, like, Clayton being all like, yo, like, this is what's going on now. We're about to meet Gabby. He, like, talks to Gabby, and he even, like, gives Gabby props for the fact that, like, she initially wasn't gonna stay. Mm-hmm. He's all like, honestly, if I were in your shoes, would have done the same. Like, he's like, I feel you. Like, that's, you know, I totally get it. And then kind of, like, goes into it. I feel like, you know, Gabby makes a good impression on the family. I think his mom, in general, with both interactions, is just, like, emotional because she wants her baby boy to find his person. Like, I feel like she is just, like, you know, upset in general, and then, like, his dad is the one who's all, like, voice of reason.
Yeah.
But and the brothers are just there.
Yeah,
they don't even. We hear barely anything from them both visits.
I mean, there's not much to say here. It's a very somber meeting because everyone's just already on high emotions. Everyone's aware of what happened the night before, and everyone's still got the looming Susie over as a dark cloud.
The looming Susie.
The looming Suze. But yeah, I think that went as well as it possibly could. He's just kind of does all that just to kind of realize that he is way into Susie.
Because even
he wants what he can't have. He wants what he can't have.
He really wants what he can't have, and I hope that's not the only reason. But I mean, watching this, it makes it feel like he's well, both of these women I convinced to stay, and then they're gonna stay, and now I'm gazing after after Rachel had a heart to heart with my mom about how she was feeling after all this or whatever. Rachel's definitely all in. Gabby was still iffy, but Steph definitely I'm staying, I'm here. And he's looking out at the horses, and he's who I miss? Suze.
Yeah. And it's just, and this is kind of Clayton is getting kind of annoying, I'm going to say, he's just kind of in his own world. Obviously, because he didn't make it as far as these women have made it on his season, he has no empathy. He's not putting himself in the shoes of those women. No,
he really shows no empathy for where they're at. And I think,
it's just more blatant than ever that he's just looking for love for himself, not
right. And even Gabby points that out when later on, but I definitely think it's very blatant that he's just because he's not even listening to his parents. His dad's all Susie's gone, get over it, it's done.
Yeah.
But we learn, of course, the producers held her in Iceland. Of course they did. You think we were gonna get with no Susie extra time, but for the first night episode, we had a couple of live portions with Nick, Claire, Michelle, and then Caitlin, Cassie, and Rodney. And from the first grouping with those are all leads, they definitely were being you've been in his shoes, where how do you feel, whatever. And with Michelle, obviously they're Clayton, what's the deal? But it's bad when Nick Viall and Claire are both
you're cringe, yeah.
And Nick calls him out being all he's lying to them because he likes Susie the most. That's the information that he's withholding from them, is that the one he loves the most is Susie. He's out here just being all no, you stay, which we don't really even get into until I guess the second night. But I think it was interesting.
I think it was cringe to see Claire calling something cringe though.
It's bad. And I thought it was weird that they brought Cassie on too, because Cassie's all ha ha ha, don't I know a man after I told him no, it's coming and running after me. Right.
I mean, I think she just kind of wanted some FaceTime because Colton has been getting a lot of it over the last year or two. But so I mean, essentially, where does that episode leave us?
It just leaves us with, Clayton finding out that Susie is still in Iceland, and he's gonna do something about trying to talk to her and trying to figure out if there's a possibility there.
Yeah, so they leave us on this cliffhanger of you still don't know what's gonna happen. So, we get to night 2, and where do we start with that?
Jesse's knocking on Susie's door. Susie is tentative. You could tell this bitch is all I thought I'd be on a plane home.
Yeah.
What's going on? And he brings her the letter from Clayton, which was a back-to-back letter. So homeboy was really sitting and writing his little journal there. And she ends up coming, I don't know if they knew she was going to be walking in. I couldn't really, it seemed very bizarre how they're all talking, and then all of a sudden she's knock knock and just walks in on him and his family. It felt very abrupt. I felt even in the way
I think that she was supposed to meet the family because they were still there, but obviously she's not gonna meet everybody until she has a conversation with Colton or
Clayton. Yeah.
Clayton. Now I'm getting it messed up. But
it's literally a joke on the internet just because it's
it's stupid.
These names.
So yeah, Clayton. you know, and then she's like, let's go talk outside, and they talk. And essentially, you know, she leaves him in the rain with what?
She tells him at that point, she's like, yo, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know if like I can commit to like meeting your family right now. I don't know what, like I need some more time to consider everything. Like I've read your letter. I understand your feelings. And like obviously like I have some sort of love for you, whatever. But like I need some time. I can't just be out here meeting your fam, acting like everything's chill.
Yeah.
And so then we pretty much go to the rose ceremony after that, right? Like,
well, hold on. We forgot to talk about how he like breaks to Gabby and Rachel, right?
Oh, well, yes. He goes, he's like, well, I'm all in on Susie. I can't act like I'm going to let these other girls stay. Mm-hmm. So he goes and he decides, I don't think this was his decision. I'm guessing it was production's decision. Like, I really don't think.
Well, we're calling this the Hail Mary, right? Like,
yeah.
This is where he just like he's like, this is the decision I'm gonna get. Susie. It's either I get Susie or I bust. You're like, that's it. So he's going all in. So
he decides, or production decides, that breaking up with both the girls at the same time is the way to go, which I think was obviously it makes me feel like it's production, because I really don't think that this man could make that many awful decisions in a row.
I just don't think he had time to make all these decisions.
Right. Well, right. Like, and also like based on like what I've heard him on Caitlin Bristow's podcast and everything, like, and how like torn up and like fucked up he's been about like how everything played out. I just feel like, you know, I don't think he was the one that was like, yeah, let me break up with these girls together. But he goes and he tells them that, you know, he's still in love with Susie. His heart's with Susie, and he's going to try to make that work. And they both, once again, lose it in their same ways of how they react. So Gabby, once again, is all like, well, there's nothing left to say here, and like gets up and goes to a different room. And of course, he leaves Rachel like freaking out to go chase after Gabby and try to talk to her. And they talk, and that's when Gabby brings up, like, you know, like, what do you mean? Like, how can I believe you? Everything you're saying now seems like bullshit, because, like, how can you say, like, she's like, you convinced me to stay here for what? To then, like, to do this, like, when you knew?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, like, essentially what she was saying was, like, what you took the decision away from us just so you could just like have the decision to break up with us. Like, we should have been able to break up with you. Why'd you convince us?
Right.
And he's just trying to be like, I know I am
like,
sorry.
I was hurt.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was just trying to figure it out. I do love you. It's like, stop saying that. So he doesn't really care. He tries to walk her out, and she's like, no.
Which I was like, claps. Because I honestly get upset whenever in the show, like after like a breakup of any sort, that he's like, can I walk you out? And then they're like hand in hand, like whatever, walking each other. I'm like, no, don't fucking, if you're breaking up, I'm done. Don't touch me. We're over.
Right.
We're good.
Right.
Like,
I mean, there's a way of if it's like, you know, understandable that the breakup is whatever, both people are like, okay, but this is not one of those situations. This is kind of really messy, actually, if you think about it. But no one's talking about the fact that he had sex with both of them.
Yeah, well, like, yeah. I mean, obviously, like, it's messy. They're like, we stayed through learning all of this, like, having to, you know, think about our own feelings about what that meant to both of us and whatever. Get over that. And then now you're being like, actually, I put you through all this shit just to actually not love you the most, not to love, like, it's hard.
Yeah, I don't know how this got so messy, but it did. And I think it's just a matter of the fact that, like, I don't know really what it is. I'll have to think about it. But yeah, so essentially we're back in like the live studio, and you know, the girls get moments to talk. Like, Gabby gets to talk, like they got their family there and all that stuff.
Did we talk about Rachel's breakup, or?
Well, I mean, all right, so Rachel's breakup, you know, she kind of goes off on him too and talks about love and how, like, and all the shit that he did wrong. Like,
she is like, you could tell she's so in love with him. Like, she is like fighting. She's like, she's losing eyelashes. Like, she is like, you know, she's like, how are you putting me in this car right now? Like, how are you?
She probably just really didn't think she was going to make it this far. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just for it to all just like disintegrate.
Right. I mean, like, she's like, we've been, especially with them from the beginning of their relationship, they've always been like super into each other, and they've been very like physically into each other. They've been very much so like always like whisper sweet nothings to each other.
Clayton is now probably cold as hell with everybody, and
yeah, and he's like, and she's like losing her mind. She's like, she gets to throw the like, I don't even know who you are right now kind of thing in his face, because she's like, where did this Clayton go? And all of a sudden you're putting me in a car on my way home? Like,
yeah.
That's insane. She's out of her, like, she's losing it.
So back at the studio, they essentially, let's just get to this, because like Susie,
yeah.
he busts out a ring for her, but like it's like, hey, I want to be with you, but she's like, it's over, and she's like, I think we just need it to be over. And so now he's left, he's the first
left
bachelor.
In the rain.
Yeah, he's the first bachelor ever to be to not get his final person, I guess.
Well, to be left, because there's definitely been bachelors or leads who have not chosen one of their one of their people or whatever, like have like at the end of it not gotten engaged, but he's the first one that's been like rejected. I think.
Well deserved. Yeah, let's give a round of applause for that, huh?
Let's give a round of applause for the ladies holding their ground.
Yeah, all of them. So, yeah, I mean, essentially, we get back to the studio. The women that got sent home, Gabby and Rachel, get to have like their piece and ask their questions. Rachel straight up asks him, "Did you say you love me just to have sex with me?" And he's like, "No, please stop saying this stuff on television."
And he's like, "Oh, goddamn!" And like, who's to say?
I mean, of course he did. What are you talking about?
I mean, yeah, but I thought Gabby was once again empathetic in her like roasting of him, because she's like, I get like you were going through this, I get you were doing that or this or that, but she was like, but also like you weren't thinking about us and our feelings. And that's when she brought up the whole like you were just trying to find love for yourself, and like you weren't trying to find love like with somebody, like you were just like looking out for you only. And
so
she's like,
during these stuff, like Jesse's doing some like trickery where he's like, Gabby is not the bachelorette, Rachel is not the bachelorette, and looking like really long at the screen and stuff. And
yeah, with the eyebrow raise. Yeah. Like he's like out here trying.
I like that. I like
he's
it.
Funny.
Yeah,
he's funny.
I like it. I think he did well.
Funny fucking thing.
You know what? Give a round of applause for Jesse Palmer.
Jesse honestly did a great job.
I think he did great. A lot of applause. So, and he's also teasing like, who's it gonna be? Some woman like called him up afterwards and was like, and now they're
somebody you would never expect reached out,
and everybody's like, does the crowd know who it is? And they're all like, Susie, you idiot.
I'm like, was it Teddy? Was it Serene? Who could it have been?
Oh man.
And because then part of me was like, well, like it would make sense if it was Susie, because why wouldn't it make sense?
Well, Serene was in the crowd too, and
with her brother,
yeah, but like, oh man, like you could tell that she was. I think she was
pissed.
She was probably pissed because she was going to be picked as the bachelorette. Probably she was probably in the runnings, and this was such a last second thing.
And also also, I feel like, she's pissed because she knows, like, how vulnerable and stuff she got with him. And then, like, seeing the way that he just, like, pretty much, like, went through this, she's like, what the fuck,
yeah,
dude?
Yeah.
Like,
this guy, like, didn't even care about his last four at all. So Susie comes out. They talk about, how they got through it and that people make mistakes and that they're going to be in love. And
he's moving to Virginia to be with her. Like, they've been together for, like, the past 4 months. Like, to me, that part wasn't super surprising. I kind of guessed that, first of all, I kind of guessed that he was going to go back to Susie. And then I didn't guess that she was going to say no. I kind of thought it was going to be more of a, like, let's just figure it out in the real world. Let's not try to get engaged here because, like, that's crazy. But then when they were like, who could it be? Like, who reached out? I'm like, well, Susie would make sense because...
Yeah. So, after kind of, like, tricking us and saying that these women weren't going to be the bachelorette, Jesse lets us know that we're getting 2 bachelorettes this time, and not like last year. They're going to be on the same season. What?
And hopefully, and not like with Caitlyn and Brittany, where they're going to be competing to be who's the one.
Well,
So-
yeah, let's talk about this, because first of all, I knew actually Gabby. She's already. I wouldn't say she was outright campaigning to be the Bachelorette, but like
She had a good Bachelorette edit.
Yes, and not only that, but like I've been seeing her on different podcasts, and the way she talks, she's very what would you say, like not political, but like, you know, what do they say when you're like very like you
PC?
have like the right answers for everything, I guess. What did you say?
PC.
Well, not PC, but like you're just like you're shaking hands, kissing babies type thing. And you know, she's making her rounds, and she does a lot of different things, like to help back with community and people and stuff. So she just would make for a great Bachelorette. But like Rachel was dragged along too, so they were like, why not? They couldn't pick between like which one got it worse. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you really
to pick
can't.
one,
You
you
really
have to
can't.
like let the other one go, and they can't afford probably to do 2 Bachelorette seasons again. So they're like, you know what? This is the surprise that we've never done this before. Which they say that type of stuff, but they have done stuff like this
That's
before.
what I felt like. This is a lot of like bits of seasons that have happened before. Like not even just this, but like stuff that Clayton and whatever did, very similar to some of the stuff that Colton did, or even some of the stuff that like Pilot Pete did. Like some of it's similar to past seasons. I'm like, none of this is like that out of line.
Well,
And
that's
they had,
because
like,
that's why they keep getting these random like offshoots of the show, because, you know, and also they're learning from their mistakes. They're like, all right, well, we have done 2 women in one season and then had the guys vote on them. That's not going to work.
That's
this time.
misogynistic as hell. Yeah.
And then we got the version where we had, you know, 2 Bachelorettes where they were like, you know, in the same year. And that didn't really work. I don't know. I feel like, because I don't know. I feel like people kind of forgot about Katie real fast and stuff.
I mean, for probably, for
Right.
reasons.
But and then so now we're gonna get this type of season, and I picture it being kind of like a F-Boy Island kind of thing, obviously,
Do
right?
you think, or yeah, even like I've been watching Joe Millionaire, where it was the same group of girls going after the 2 dudes.
Oh,
which
yeah.
like
That's
a lot
probably
of
I haven't
people,
seen
like,
that, but that's probably what it's gonna be.
Yeah,
like.
a lot of fans are all like, give them almost double the dudes. Like they should have like their own dudes coming after them. Like
No. I like this. I like the format of having them like date the same type of guys, because that's how you really get to see guys. You know what I'm saying? This is actually the best way. This is the best way to see people be the closest way we could see people try to be at least like the most real that they're going to be, because you can't go for both girls. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might have the opportunity to get to know both, but you can't like lie to both. They're going to come back to each other and talk about which guy they're going to be with, and they're going to cancel out guys that are going to be, teetering the line.
Well, yeah. Well, because like even so on Joe Millionaire, where it's the 2 dudes, there was definitely a couple of girls that both guys were into, and that the girls were like feeling out the relationship with both of them until they, picked.
Well,
aside.
it's also like, I mean, it's not like this is that groundbreaking, actually. It's for this franchise maybe, but they've done it with Double Shot of Love with Pauly D and the Jersey Shore dude.
Yeah, Vinny.
And that season, that I watched that, and I watched that play out, how they were like going back and forth. Eventually some guys are here for this one.
Eventually you find,
Yeah.
and eventually the women figure out, or like, I guess in this case it'll be the men,
Yeah.
figure out who like they vibe with and who's going to be like, who's more like-minded to them or whatever, whose morals and stuff align or whatever. Like,
Yeah, but I feel like we're gonna have opportunities to see more villains in this type of scenario. So who knows? When do you think we're gonna see all this? They didn't really. It sounded like they just threw this all together last minute, actually.
yeah, it sounds very like very of the moment, because the way that the girls reacted and they were surprised, I feel like they didn't know that they were going to be doing it together.
No, not at all. They thought they were like, all right, they're gonna announce.
They
which
might have
one of
been
you.
told separately that they were like potentially gonna, and I think they found out that night. And then they were like all over. I was like, maybe you guys should just date. They were like sitting on the like same couch cushion when they came down and like were like being introduced and whatever, and they were like holding each other. I'm like, y'all just fucking date. Just do it.
Yeah, I think.
Dip your toe in the girl pool.
I
Water's
mean,
fine.
I think that it's a great way to do the Bachelorette, like, or anything, to be able to do it with somebody that's went through it just like you did, so I think this will be I'm looking forward to this season way more than I have of past Bachelorette seasons. So So yeah, I guess we'll just have to kind of find out where this goes. Clayton and Susie already had like their People's cover and stuff like that. Do you think Clayton will do the Dancing with the Stars and everything? No. Yeah, no. I mean, I think he will actually, because like I feel like Dancing with the Stars is like, I mean, they probably won't ask him. Maybe they would. Actually, they probably would. Hope not. But I mean, isn't Dancing with the Stars kind of like how you kind of can come back and win America back over with your dance moves?
I guess.
I don't know. But yeah, we'll see. We'll just have to see. I think this was a pretty crazy season. It feels a little crazy, right?
It feels crazy. I think it feels crazy just because, I think Nick Viall said something to this degree, and I think it makes sense to me. Or I think even Balake said it too, where because Clayton wasn't, one of the top 4-ish of his season, that when he was on Michelle's season, I think we truly got a different vibe because he didn't understand how that could feel.
I think that again, that I feel like Matt James got a lot of backlash too. Like his was very complicated with the race stuff as well, but like
he got a lot of backlash because he knew nothing about it.
Exactly.
It was his first time. Like he knew whatever Tyler had told him, but like it's not like he knew how it would be as a lead.
Right. And I don't know, like I can't say that I hate Clayton any more than I like hate any other Bachelor, like, I
don't think I hate him more. And I saw Juan Pablo had tweeted being all like, Clayton, thanks for like taking some, take some of this off of me. But I don't know if like I can say like I have some empathy for him. I really do think he messed up with how he, carried some things out. It seems like he seems like he was very solemn at the live portions, like talking with the women and whatever. And like he seems like he has grown and whatever. I wish the best for him and Susie. But, I definitely think I feel like I always like don't like the Bachelors more than most of the Bachelorettes just because except for like the Claires and whoever's like I felt like that was just but like once again, that's because she went off and just like did things a way that like wasn't considerate of other people, and I feel like that's the only reason why I didn't like a lot of what Clayton did this season is because his lack of empathy in a lot of situations was just a little hard to see.
Well said. We'll let that be kind of like our final words on it. If you guys have any thoughts, what you thought about the ending of this, make sure you leave it in the comments below. Make sure you're liking and subscribing because I'm not sure what we're going to do for Bachelor stuff. Probably just updates over the next couple weeks until we figure out when a new Bachelorette season or what kind of season's coming next. But let us know what you'd want us to talk about. If you guys want to hear some more stuff, we usually talk about a lot of different things, but as we come to an end of this season, I think we had a lot of drama, ups and downs, and it ended with love, I guess. It ended with love. And
always does.
And it's always funny to see, too, how mad, like, the girls are. But it's like you went through all this stuff just to be the Bachelorette. So it's like you can't even complain about what you went through, right?
Because, I think you can complain.
Well, you could complain, but you wouldn't be the Bachelorette if you didn't go through that stuff. And I think you'd rather be the Bachelorette than anything.
I think, it depends. I think if you had talked to Rachel before her watching the end.
No, I would love for one of them.
I think she would have been like, no, I would have rather been in this relationship. And then afterwards, I think she's like, never mind. Like,
Yeah. We'll just have to see how this all unfolds. Thank you all for listening to us talk about it this season. We'll be back with, we do this every week, but we'll be back with another season of whatever comes next talking about it. So make sure you're subscribing, liking us, staying here for all your favorite Bachelor content. And, another season down, season 26 out.
Future Bachelor Podcast.